My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Furendo Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanuces Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanuces Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanuces Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanuces organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanuces Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, us.
Hi, this is Fukan Shabazz from the CentralCon.com dojo in Atlanta, Warwick branch. Tonight, the co-host tonight will be myself, Fukan Shabazz, and my teacher, Shihan Salahuddin, who I'm going to bring in right now. Hello, Shihan. How you doing tonight?
Oh, very good. How about yourself?
Very good, very good. I'm telling our guests tonight about our special guest that we're having again on our show, Professor Jerry Denson, and he's going to be talking tonight about the philosophy of the Sanuces Ryu the combat philosophy of Sanuces Ryu. So without further ado, let me bring in Professor Denson.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Professor. How you feeling?
Salam. Oh, just fine, thank God. How you doing, brother Salahuddin?
Hey, how we doing, Professor?
Hey, we're doing pretty good, man. Thankful for another day, you know?
Yeah. Sure.
Hey, Professor, while I pull up some of these questions I have for you, why don't you tell them a little bit about what's going on at the dojo? What are y'all working on lately at the dojo down in Florida?
Well, right now, just like tonight, we were basically working on we're working on kata and the breakdown of the techniques, and just trying to sharpen up or review a lot of things, you know. Yeah. But I believe that even though we may teach certain things, the brain may not just take it and consume it right then, so we have to go back over to make sure, you know.
Yes,
so sir. That's what we've been doing, reviewing a lot of information and keeping in mind what's really important. And that is the what we're talking about tonight, the philosophy of the martial arts.
All right.
Yeah. So that's what we've been going through, brother.
All right, Professor Denson, I'm just going to jump right into it. My first question, start off with this. What is philosophy to you?
What is philosophy?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, hold on. Hey, your phone's going in and out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Yeah. Well, philosophy, brother. Well, for one thing, as far as the Webster's New Abridged Dictionary is concerned, philosophy is defined as the rational investigation of truth, of being, of knowledge. Basically, getting to the truth of things. That's what philosophy is. And we should always, I wouldn't say just be critical of everything, but we should always have a mind to know the deeper levels of things, because behind every reality there's another reality. And philosophy is something that I think keeps us learning more, because we ask the right questions, and we basically get into the logical conclusion of things. So that's what philosophy is, brother, basically finding out the truth.
Of course. And let me ask you, when did you initially become involved in the philosophy of the martial arts?
Well, initially, I became involved in the philosophy. It was back in 1972. Do you remember the Kung Fu show? They used to come on the. Yeah. It was David Carradine was playing the Shaolin monks.
Yeah, I remember that.
Chai Kwai Chang, and Grasshopper is what they used to call him. But I found out that during that time, it was a lot of Eastern philosophy being disseminated in that particular show, and I really, really enjoyed that. I mean, let alone the fighting skills, but the best part of that was listening to what they had to say. For some reason, I became, just enchanted by it. So what I did at that point, I started, looking into things myself, reading certain books, and, even as far as Greek philosophy is concerned, just trying to understand writings of Plato, Socrates, Sophocles, Aristotle, anything that could help me better understand life in general. And one of the things
let me ask you, when you talk about Plato, what writings in particular did you like about Plato?
Well, basically, when Plato gave up information, especially things concerning the individual, as far as truth is concerned, I found it to be interesting, because a lot of what was written and said, especially with Socrates, and one of the most prominent sayings was the unexamined life
is a life not lived.
Isn't worth living.
Right.
The unexamined life isn't worth living. And when you really think about that, it makes a lot of sense. Because if you just go through life without examining it, without examining your own behavior and the things that you do and what you learn, then you're not really living. I say you're just existing. So we have to take time to get into the real depths of matters and try to understand, where we're going in life. And with martial arts, it's the same thing, because the most important part of martial arts is not the kicking, the punching, and the throwing, But the most important part of it is self-understanding.
You know, one of the interesting things I liked about philosophy, because, you know, I actually like philosophy too, and, you know, particularly like when you study, let's say, European philosophy, as an example, let's say, hey, hold on one second. Hey, hold on just 1 second. Sorry about that, Professor. Professor? Yeah. The thing I liked about the European philosophy is that when you study European philosophy, first thing you realize is that the first one was Homer, right? And he lived 700 years before Christ. So he writes these two books, the Iliad and the Odyssey. But the interesting thing about when you study Homer, is that when you go back 700 years before Christ, there was no university. There was no nothing. You understand what I'm saying? The only thing that Homer was philosophizing was he just raised four questions. He said, what was the four elements of the universe? He said, well, what is air? What is water? What is fire? Right? So it's air, earth, water, fire. That was so, you know what I mean? Like, that was just so fascinating to them. The Greeks, because they didn't have the answers to that. But when you parallel that, because if you look at Greece, right? Greece is right next to Greece is what? The Mediterranean Sea. And then on the other side of the Mediterranean Sea is Egypt. And when you look at those pyramids, the pyramids were built 5,000 years before Christ. So if the pyramids was built 5,000 years before Christ, and if the first European came on the scene 700 years before Christ, then the Greek civilization to the Egyptian civilization is like a son to the father. But in the sense, but the Greek civilization, they were basically asking questions because that's what philosophy pretty much, right? Because at the root of philosophy,
that's right. Asking questions. That's right.
Right. And not a philosophy grows into two trees. One tree is religion, and the other tree is science. But what science and religion both have in common is what? Philosophy. But when you look across the street in Egypt, they wasn't even philosophizing. They already had this. They already had the answers. You know what I mean? They already had the 50 different mathematical systems that built the pyramids. They already, at the top of the pyramids, there were planetarians that they were studying the universe. So I'm just saying that to say, so to tie this back into Sanuces, you know, from on to the next question, do you think that Sanuces, you know, do you think Sanuces answered the universal question for every martial artist, or do you think that in Sanuces they're still philosophically questioning in terms of, you know, like who we are as human beings?
Well, as far as, you know,
who we are as martial artists, is what I'm saying.
Well, as martial artists, I say that every martial arts system has its philosophical base.
Right.
And really, one should not be too far away in the foundation. They shouldn't be too far, too split. It shouldn't be like one is saying this and one is saying that, and they sound like something foreign to one another, you know? Because when it gets right down to it, even Sanuces and Dr. Powell's philosophy, you know, he would say things like, well, Sanuces, it means simplicity. You know, simplicity. Or he would say things like, you know, every man and every woman should work towards understanding who he or she is. Well, and when you do that, whatever style that you're practicing, whatever art that you're practicing, you should become better at that art by understanding yourself better. Mm-hmm. Now that's what he would say. And he said, okay. And when I think back, even in the days when we were all caught up, man, with certain things, especially Bruce Lee, because I was fascinated by Bruce Lee and things that he did. But there's one philosophical saying that he laid out when he said that now the ultimate goal of martial arts training is self-knowledge.
No, it's funny you said that. It's funny you said that because Socrates, that's what Socrates was all about. He was all about, he said, know thyself. On the doors of the pyramids, right? When you go to the mystery schools, on their doors it said, know thyself.
Know thyself. And that's very important for all systems, because understanding yourself, that's the beginning. I don't think that understanding the mysteries of the universe, I don't think that's more important than understanding who you are and how you fit into the scheme of things. And in the Japanese term, the word philosophy, they have a word in Japanese terms. It's called tetsugaku, philosophy. And even when you get down to some of the things that you learn in the Japanese system, it's all about learning who you are. Even Gisshin Funakoshi, considered the father of karate, he said that the main goal of karate was not in winning or losing or, physical battles, but it was in the perfection of the character. So that's going back again to know thyself. It all comes back to the character of the human being.
Hey, Professor, let me ask you this question. And then that relates to, let's say, philosophy, right? So basically philosophy raises questions, right? So, like, the most interesting question is going to always be, I guess you could say something like, who is God, right? And so then there's two branches that tries to answer this question. One is going to be religion, whatever your flavor is, whether it's Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Confucius, whatever you like. These things is going to be an attempt to answer that question. And then the other branch is going to be science, right? So then you got, science tries to answer this question. And what do you think about that? I mean, when you look at, what do you think about that? What do you think about and then you got those who doesn't appeal to science or religion. They just continue philosophizing. They just continue to just philosophize.
Well, we have people who categorize themselves as atheists, agnostics, whatever they come up. Some say they believe, some say I don't know. Then you have the scientists, who they come up with their own answers, because a lot of times the deep downhearted scientists, they only believe in what they can see and feel, anything that's affected by the senses,
Right.
So when you get to talking about anything higher than what's physical, then you're on another level. But for me personally, growing up, I've always had a foundation from my family as far as what is what is spiritual and what is important, and that there is a being that's greater than all of us, that's all knowing, all powerful. You see, so I believe that. That's how I grew up, and I believe that when it comes to other individuals, it all depends on what their spiritual base is, what they've been taught as children, because that's our foundation. If we're being taught that, the devil rules, then 9 times out of 10, we may act as though, we're close friends with the devil and just doing crazy things in life. But then if you're being told that there's a greater being in someone who's, that's compassionate, and if you do good, good gonna come to you, and if you believe that, then you're gonna be a different type of person. But it all depends upon the lessons you get early.
So let me play another devil's advocate. So now let's say like the scientists, right? The scientists will argue. You would say, well, here he's going to break it up into two categories. He's going to say your reality is based on belief, right? He's going to say the religious is based on belief, and and the scientist is based on rationalism, right? Yeah. And so what do you think about understanding yourself in the universe? Or let's just say understanding that higher power in the universe. And whether you're going to go through belief versus rationalism. Which one do you think is philosophically the best way to go?
Well, if you're asking me personally, what I think, is what I know. And in the beginning, if you asked me years ago, I would have said, well, the Bible, I believe in the Bible and the things that it says, and you know, then later on, as I began to study more, then I began to think, well, maybe something's been changed here about the Bible, and maybe somebody's had a hand in changing some of the things that have been said. But I believe in the Bible. There are a lot of things that said is true. And then my higher move was to the Quran, you know, and what the Creator has revealed in that book. And so now my understanding, I think from that, it becomes a lot greater, because my belief is there, but then it's also substantiated by the knowledge of what I do believe in and what the Creator has told us, you know. And one of the most important things is that we've all been created in excellent modes, and that all we have to do is listen to what the Creator has given us as a guide to live our lives by. And if we do that, we're going to be okay. And that's the way I see it.
You know, before I move on to the next one, I'll make one point. You know, you mentioned the Quran. You know, in the first 300 years of Islam, Muslims dominated the world, you know, in terms of like mathematics and science. Matter of fact, the word algebra is an Arabic name. You know, the concept of zero, this kind of thing. And even like when the kids go to school, you know how like they teach you the constellations in the universe. All those constellations are Greek names, but only 1/3 of them are Greek. The other 2/3 are all Arabic. But they don't never teach that. I have a book. I have a book that has all the 2/3 of all the constellations in the universe are Arabic, but they never teach you those names, right? But yet the first 300 years of the Muslims, they were studying the universe, right? The Quran, Allah said, he said.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Right. So
they're not gonna tell you all that, brother. You know that.
Yeah, but let me just, so my point is that the first 300 years of the Muslim was basically just studying the universe. But then came this guy, I forget his name, he was this Muslim poet. And he said that science and rationalism, he said that this is not important. And so what he did, he threw Islam back into a sleep. And then when he did that, dogmatism overtook rationalism. You see what I'm saying? And so the gains that was made in those first 300 years actually took a seat back to just dogmatic rituals. So, and then the people who actually surpassed the Muslims were actually the Jewish community, because if you look at all the Nobel Peace Prize in the world, most of them is owned by the Jews. Because in the Jewish community they're taught to be rational. They're taught, you know, the rational component. Even when you become a rabbi, you know, when you study the Torah, you have to understand both sides of the argument. So it's constantly, you know, being rational. So I'm just saying all this to say, again, you know, when you look at belief, right, and when you look at rationalism, well, let me just ask you another question. Do you think we live in a physical world, or do we live in a spiritual world?
Brother, we live in a physical world without a doubt, and we live in a spiritual world. You know, we're told that as Muslims that we should get our share of the dunya,
right,
the material world. And that goes without saying, brother, that we are a part of the dust of the earth, you know, but that's not all we are. You know, we have a soul, we are a breathing being, we're above the animals of the earth because we do have the intelligence to make a conscious choice. So without a doubt, we are physical, but we are spiritual.
And what's the difference between spiritual and physical to you? How do you?
Well, to me, the way I see it, the physical being, it speaks for itself. You know, it's just like when we pass this earth, when we die, our physical body goes back to the earth, and that's where we're from. And that spiritual part of us, or that soul, whatever people call it, it goes back to the Creator, because that body was.
Now, what is the soul?
It's something, brother, that as far as the Quran said in the word, the Arabic word is ruh. and they also equate that to being the spirit of man. So man's spirit goes back from where it came, So you'll find that the soul and the spirit is used interchangeably when people talk about that, But as personally, I see it as being something that if your body gives way and it goes back to the earth, then there's a part of you that has to go back to something higher. You see, and it tells us that we will, on the day of judgment, be judged for what we've done, and we will know the truth of all matters. So, it all depends on how you believe and what's your understanding,
Oh, okay. Let me ask you the next question on your list. It says, what do you mean when you say everyone has a philosophy of life?
Well, I look at it this way. Coming up as a child, I would often hear many adults say, I'm grown. I'm grown. And I would hear that so much. And that would be an excuse for anything they wanted to do. I'm grown. So later on, when I decided to really try to do a little research on, knowing that all words have meaning, what does the word grown mean? So I would, research it. And when it gets to the point, grown really means complete. No room for growth. It's stuck. You're right there. So a lot of the adults were saying, well, I'm 21. Okay? That's a philosophy of life. That means that the person has come to some conclusion that a biological age has something to do with real growth. And that's just on a physical level. So when I looked up the words evolve, it says to progress or to go beyond a certain point. So I understand that to be a philosophy of life that goes against human nature, because no human being is grown. In fact, we are always growing, or should be. So that's a philosophy, or a way of looking at life. And that's what a philosophy is, the way that you see life, the way that you think life should be lived. But that type of philosophy goes against human nature, because like I said before, each and every one of us, we're always growing. I don't consider myself a grown man. I consider myself a growing human being.
It's funny you said a thing about evolve, and I like that. Matter of fact, in Al-Fatiha, it says that praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, right? And the Lord comes from the Arabic word Rab. And Rab, R-A-B, which means to evolve from crude to perfection.
That's right.
So do you think that the nature of humanity is ultimately trying to evolve back to perfection?
Well, I look at it like this. We're always evolving, but the only thing that's truly perfected, or the only thing that is perfection, is that which created us and gave us life. So as far as us being, like those saying go, we're striving for perfection in our character. That's something that we're going to always be doing, because really, as far as perfection is concerned, that's going to really seem to be an elusive thing, because we're always trying to get better. One day we can be at our best, and the next day we could be at our worst. So we have to always keep trying. And there is an old Chinese proverb that says, when we perceive the way of nature, we remove conflict from within ourselves and discover a harmony of body and mind in accord with the flow of the universe. So it's all about flowing with the universe. And if we're doing anything that's against that, we're fighting a losing battle. That's why knowing self or becoming very familiar with who we are and how we fit into the scheme of things is very important.
Of course. All right. The next question I have for you is, in your writings, you mentioned the term straitjacket philosophy. Can you expound on this?
Straitjacket philosophy. That's a term I came up with because when I really, really thought about it, if a man or a woman, if their philosophy of life is not in accord with nature, then that philosophy will prove to be a straitjacket. And we know a straitjacket, that's what they put on you when they put you into a mental institution. And they put that jacket around you to keep you actually from doing harm to yourself or others. So it's something that restricts you severely. But on this level, we're talking about a philosophy of life or ideas that restricts you mentally and spiritually like a straitjacket. Because if you have the wrong philosophy of life, there's no way that you can think or act like the human being you're supposed to be. So that straitjacket philosophy, we don't want that. We don't want to get caught up in our own mental institution, so to speak.
Now, let me ask you this question. When you say nature, when you say if it's not aligned with nature, what do you mean by, what is nature? What do you mean by nature?
Nature, when I say nature, I mean the universe. I mean everything that exists that we can learn from, And somewhere in the Quran it tells us that, all we have to do is, look at nature and take an example from everything, big and small, So when I say nature, I'm saying everything that exists around us, that which we understand and a lot of it which we don't understand, just like the workings of the universe, And I remember reading a hadith that says, if you do good, then all of nature, the whole universe, will work for your benefit. But if you do bad, the whole of the universe or the whole of nature will work against you. So when it says that, it's just letting us know that we have to be conscious of what we're doing and how we're treating other people and even how we're treating animals. And I remember another hadith that deals with a man who he was thirsty and he put his shoe down into the well to get water. And when he pulled the shoe up and he drank the water, there was a dog standing nearby. And he saw that the dog was thirsty too. So he put his shoe back down into the well, and he got water and gave it to the dog. And it was revealed to him that by helping that dog, that was a blessing for him, because all inanimate objects, cats, dogs, animals, or whatever, they have a spirit also, brother, and that we should take care of them, and that we should treat them right, because a lot of people are very, very evil toward animals. They think it's okay to throw rocks at dogs and cats and kick them up in the air and things of this nature, when that's very bad, very bad. So we have to,
But I found that when man doesn't prescribe to a higher being, by his very nature, he's a beast. He's no different than, a dog.
Yeah, brother.
When you take the, I've met a lot of different personalities, and when I find that if you take a person that's not civilized, they're no different than bears and lions and tigers. You know what I'm saying? Like even if you look at the Sphinx in Egypt, you got the face of a pharaoh, but he got the body of a lion. You know, it's almost like a symbolism. It's like man is trying to overcome the beast within himself. And when he overcomes the beast within himself, he's become king. That's the whole concept of the pharaoh overcoming the lion within his own nature.
That's that conflict I just got to telling you. Yeah.
Or that jihad, that internal struggle.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So your next question is, let me ask you this question. But what is philosophism? Philosophism, right.
Yes. Actually, philosophism is the opposite of philosophy, in that it is what you call a contrived argument. You know, a philosophy that goes against human nature. A philosophy of life that goes against human nature. You see, somebody would try to argue with you, just like saying, sometimes people would tell you, well, you know, man, I got to look out for me, and I don't need nobody, and and you know that's not true, because we all need somebody at some time or another. But some people take on that philosophy of life, which is philosophism, or contrived argument, or false argument. There's no way that can make sense. So that's what philosophism is, brother, an idea or a concept that really has no basis in sound scholarship. You know, just something somebody may say, and when you really put it to the test, it makes no sense at all.
You know, in some ways our culture is almost like a philosophism, you know. Like even if you take something as simple like as a clock, you know what I mean? Like you look at a clock, it spins clockwise, but the earth rotates counterclockwise.
Right.
So how come? So why is time going? So why is the time given to us in this society goes the opposite direction from how Allah made the earth move? Allah created the earth to move counterclockwise, but yet we always think of time moving clockwise. So that would be a good example of philosophism.
Yeah. But I think that's a sign also, brother, that we're working our way back to the beginning. To the very beginning.
My next question, how can a person... Go ahead, Professor. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, brother.
How can a person be a victim of his own philosophical shortcomings?
Well, one example was what we just got through talking about, having a philosophy of life that goes against your very nature. We could take some of the people in society who are given to criminal behavior, and some of them actually think that living the life of a criminal is a good way to live, because presently they may be making a lot of money, but they don't see the disaster that's coming because of that philosophy. You see, and that is a philosophy of life that's basically, it's a shortcoming. It's lacking a whole lot. And that's what we have to try to stay away from. You know, those philosophies of life, man, that basically is not working in our favor. You know, and we have to get away from it.
You know, one thing I'm really trying not to have is an ego. Going into 2012, I don't want an ego. I don't have no need for an ego. I'm trying to have I'm striving, I'm praying, I want to have an egoless life. Because I think ego can be at the root of a lot of shortcomings.
It is. We know that, brother, and we can see that. It is at the root of a lot of shortcomings, and even in the martial arts circles, man, we still have a lot of learning to do, because a lot of us think that, all of our training and trophy winning and everything else is what really matters, when it's not. You see, so we win a trophy and we get blown up, and we think we're you know, but it's not about that. It always boils back down to the inner human being, to the real us, you know.
And going back to your guy Socrates, I mean, you know, God was a brilliant philosopher, probably one of the greatest philosophers out of the European civilization. And for all his brilliance, he said that he knows nothing.
Yeah, that boiled against humility, brother.
Yes. Humility, right. He said he knows absolutely nothing.
I know nothing. You see?
All right. We have about maybe 7 minutes left, and I got 3 more questions. The next question is, you have said that any serious martial artist is a person of scholarship. How so?
Well, any serious martial artist doesn't, he or she is not involved in martial arts as a hobby, but they're involved in the martial arts as a way of life. And by being so, they're going to put forth the effort to learn as much as they can, especially about the philosophy of their particular arts. You know, and they won't just be satisfied with learning what the instructor would teach them, but they would go even further as far as the scholarship or acquiring knowledge, research, trying to find out about things. They always have a hunger for information. You see, and that's what places them above the average person who's just involved in the martial arts, so that they can learn physical techniques. There's a difference.
Professor, a true martial artist, this is the next question, a true martial artist is given to introspection. What do you mean by that?
Well, the word introspection, it comes down to being a person. When you're introspective, you're a person who always looking into the state of your own psychological and emotional condition. You know, so you're always looking into yourself. You're always taking stock of yourself. You're always being critical of yourself in positive ways, you know, because that's the only way you're going to really grow. You see, so if there's any problem or if there's any shortcomings that you need to deal with, the only way to do that, you've got to start looking within yourself and trying to be for real about the person you are. Because if we allow ourselves to be captivated or controlled by our own delusions, then we can't grow. So we've got to always use introspection. We've got to always look into ourselves and to ask questions and to, you know, be real with self.
Yes. And Professor, my last question. The true martial artist is guided by internalized values rather than external pressures. Can you please explain this?
Well, internalized values are those values that we learn early in life. You know, it's the values that our parents pass down to us, the good things they tell us what to do and not what to do, and the bad things to stay away from. But then we get out in society and we get around other people and we want to be part of a certain group. And so now our internalized values take a back seat to the external pressures that those peers of ours may place upon us, trying to get us to do or be what we're not. So when it comes down to a martial artist, again, because of introspection, because of looking into yourself and always dealing with who you really are, your internal values will take over, and you will not be pressured by external pressure to, you know, get involved in things that you shouldn't or to think the way you shouldn't. You know, you're going to be the human being that you were created to be, as long as you stay on that path.
Yes. We got 2 minutes and 15 seconds left, Professor. I would like to just end out the show, you know, just talk to the audience, whatever's on your mind. I'll let you know we got about 30 seconds left.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that I appreciate everyone listening in, and if you have any thoughts about maybe having some type of programs at your school, at this point, sometimes I'm going around doing seminars. And if you want to get in touch with me concerning seminars of jiu-jitsu and philosophy, you can reach me at Sensei Denson at yahoo.com. Sensei Denson at yahoo.com. Just, email me, and I'll respond. But I just like to say that the most important thing as far as martial arts training is concerned, always try to treat yourself right, and by doing that, you'll treat other people right. Always keep in mind, it's very important. We're all one humanity. We're one human family, and we need to treat each other that way. And that's about it, brother.
All right. Well, we got 47 seconds left. Just going to say, we're almost coming up on a new year. I want to thank Professor Denson for giving us another interview. He's one of the, it's only a handful of these people around, these masters around. So while they're living, get the knowledge, man. I mean, Professor Denson is another one that walked and talked with Doc. And, going into the new year, I hope that there's more ummah, that there's more unity amongst the entire Sanuces organization. And I want to thank you again for the interview. And I just want to let Shihan close out the show. We got 17 seconds left.
Yes, sir.
Well, just want to say thank you, Professor. It was an honor and a great interview.
10 seconds left.
All right. We're going to end this the way Doc ended it, all right? We're going to say eye to eye.
Heart to heart.
Good.